Hey everyone, and welcome to the Mindful Bullhorn. I'm your host, Justin Whitowich, CMO at Borshoff, where it's our purpose to help brands make an impact. Just a quick reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. But you can also find the Mindful Bullhorn on your favorite podcast platform like Apple and Spotify. Today we're connecting with Roe Lach, Commissioner of the NCAA's Division I Horizon League, and we're having a conversation about how the league is recharging its brand across its 11 universities and markets and the nearly 3,000 D1 student athletes it serves. Let's go. Hey, Julie.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Good to be here.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We are thrilled to have you here. We know you're doing some really cool and innovative things with the Horizon League and can't wait to dig in.
Sounds fun.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Seriously, I appreciate it.
Yeah, our pleasure. We know that sports, athletics has been a part of your life forever. As a child, going through high school and college, and of course through the NCAA, and now as your role leading the Horizon League as its commissioner. Let's go way back to your childhood and tell us about some of your favorite memories or your first memories of sports.
Yeah, you know, I grew up in a small town and not a lot to do, as in many rural farming, coal mining communities. Yeah. My first memory was not an organized sport, but literally playing kickball in the backyard with neighborhood kids. And you think about that, I mean, it was 3-on-3 or 2-on-2, so you had ghost runners.
I remember ghost runners.
You had to write. You don't even talk about ghost runners these days, but you had to work through, okay, what are the rules? Was that really an out? Was I safe? So I loved it. I mean, I loved any sort of games like that. And then, of course, I fell in love with basketball through my childhood. But my first memory of sport in some way, the team sport, would be kickball.
I remember ghost runners playing just baseball in this big field where I grew up. And yeah, you don't have enough runners, so we put ghost runners on. And
that's right.
That's so funny.
And you can't pass them.
Yeah, exactly.
But they advance when you do. Yeah, it was fun.
So those early memories of kickball and then playing more organized sports, how has that influenced really your whole trajectory in selection to go to university and play college athletics there? And again, working for the NCAA, sports has been a part of your entire career. How have those early childhood experiences really influenced where you are today, and why have you decided to stay in sports for so long?
Well, you know, So I played high school sports, and because it was a small high school, not like some of the mega schools now in Indianapolis, you could play as many sports as you wanted. In fact, they recruited you to play sports on the team so they could fill the rosters. So I had a chance to play volleyball, basketball I didn't play it year-round then because I couldn't, but ran track, learned a high jump by a retired senior Olympian who just became my friend. And he said, hey, can I teach you how to high jump? Because we didn't have a field coach for the high school track team. So he became my high jump coach, and then he became my free throw coach. So it was those sorts of, I think, relationships through sport and my other coaches and my teammates that I just loved it. Yeah. And it was such a positive outlet. And I still now call it the leadership lab. I think obviously we learn a lot in the classroom, and then you learn leadership skills oftentimes through other extracurricular. It's not limited to sport. For me, that was it. But for many, it's performance arts. It's not limited to that, but I think sports offers it. So that, to me, that's why I believe in it.
I totally agree. There's so many life lessons that you learn in sports. Leadership, teamwork, how to lose gracefully, how to win gracefully. Right. So many things that we apply in our lives today. Yeah.
Every day, you're right.
Horizon League's purpose: add value to the educational experience through your core values. Core values being well-being, integrity, respect, stewardship. Really strong purpose, really strong core values. So my question is, how are you setting the vision across all of your campuses and university athletic departments in terms of how they bring those to life and what they're doing?
We talk, and it starts with our presidents and our chancellors. So we are, as you know, 11 universities across this 6-state footprint, and we've got the R1 level research institution at Milwaukee, across the spectrum to 2 privates. Yet they all come together, and we've talked about, even through this brand recharge that we underwent about a year ago, what really, do we all have in common that unifies us? And at the same time, what makes us distinctive from every other Division I conference? And we really spent some time on that unity piece. And relative to that, we said, one, we are providing Division I elite experiences. I mean, I love going to our events, not just championships, regular season. These are student athletes competing at the pinnacle. While they also are not going to go pro in sport for the most part, we do have some professional athletes out there, but most, really, that degree matters. And what's, I think, really special is the athletics piece of it, that scholarship, that's their pathway to that degree. And you and I know that's going to change their life. I mean, the statistics are there. You get a college education, it just opens opportunities beyond. So our presidents and universities, they see that return on investment for the individual, and then they see the return on investment for the institution whenever you have the exposure that comes with Division I sports.
Yeah, I really like that language, the pathway into providing and building a future for yourself through college athletics. Really nice.
So most people don't know this. Outside of the GI Bill, college scholarships have provided more educational opportunity than anything else in our country's history.
Know that. That's amazing.
I just heard that a few years ago. I should have known that a long time ago. But actually, the NCAA president has made that point. Wow. The new president, Charlie Baker, he said, look, we can't screw this up, people. Obviously, college athletics has a lot of threats right now, external, and should the model change, and should we have a revenue share? A lot of questions, important questions coming at us. But at the end of the day, we got to make sure we keep these educational opportunities intact.
Yep. So, I mean, my next point here, reputation for leadership is a big part of the Horizon League, and you've earned that reputation, especially for how you're active in the community around the markets and where your campuses are. And there's many examples of how you've activated this at the campus level. One of them is the We Coach partnership. So talk a little bit about that and some of the success you've had with We Coach.
Sure. So and this goes to one of our core values of really trying to be inclusive, but it was really a few years ago. We Coach is a national organization, and they put out a report card that notes how well campuses are doing in recruiting, hiring, retaining, and advancing women coaches. This is a passion for me because my first female coach I didn't have until I went to college. I had some incredible male mentors in high school, and I'm grateful for them. And then now to have a female coach who became one of my role models in college just put me on a different trajectory in terms of female leadership and what that looks like. So with that as context, I'm a little biased, but with that as context, I learned about We Coach, this national nonprofit, and they put out this report card. Well, our report card wasn't very good. And I talked to our presidents and chancellors about this. Now, this was pre-pandemic, and they said, so what can we do about it? I said, well, one, we can be the first conference to have a league-wide membership with this organization that earnestly provides programming to keep women in the game. Mm-hmm. And a credit to our presidents and chancellors, they said, let's do it. And it has helped. I've had many of our coaches anecdotally come up to me and say, hey, I went through that training, which is a 3-day advancement institute. They have an 80% retention rate of women who go through that versus women, otherwise women are leaving the profession at about a 40% rate. Oh, wow. So they've really been able to show statistically they can keep women in the game. Yeah. And I think, and after we did it, now every conference has followed suit with this league-wide membership, but we were proud to be the first in that space.
That's great, trailblazers, yeah.
Right.
That sounds like a great program.
And more importantly, it matters because it's making an impact.
Of course, yeah. I'm very curious about your work with the ESPN. I know a big part of what you're trying to do leading the Horizon League is provide opportunities to give exposure to the league, to the colleges, and of course the student athletes. And so you've been able to get more exposure through ESPN. What goes into those conversations, those negotiations with them, and what do you think ESPN values in terms of the content the Horizon League can provide for it as a network and a distribution channel, but also for its viewers?
So yeah, I love that question because ESPN's been a partner of ours for over 25 years. And it is, I mean, like any partnership, it really does come down to the people and the relationship and understanding what matters to them, what matters to us, and thankfully those goals have been aligned. When the Horizon League Network was formed back in 2006, we were the first conference to have a network, and that's all credit to my predecessor, John LaCrone, for having the vision. So before the Big Ten even thought about a Big Ten network, the Horizon League Network was 2006. I mean, that's pretty amazing that we were streaming. Yeah. Well, that meant we had to convince our schools to build infrastructures to be able to stream these games to ESPN and deliver them to Bristol, Connecticut. Fast forward, when ESPN launched ESPN3 in 2014, right when I joined the Horizon League, we were moving all of our content from the Horizon League network to ESPN3 at the time, that is now ESPN Plus. It then goes to ESPN Plus a few years later behind a paywall, which costs less than a latte for a monthly subscription. Yeah. But nonetheless, that was a change for our members. Now everyone really sees we deliver over 700 events, and that's each of our campuses essentially has a production studio, not as sophisticated as where we are, but they have a production studio where they are producing games, whether it's on the softball field, in the basketball arena. They have built out the infrastructure, and we've helped subsidize that with our league resources to really provide fantastic productions to ESPN. Yeah. I think last year we had over 42 million minutes of competition watched, which I think is awesome. Yeah. So most of our content's on ESPN Plus, but we have basketball games on ESPN2, ESPNU, and of course our championship game on the men's side is primetime on ESPN every year, which generates incredible eyeballs and exposure for our schools.
That's really interesting. I didn't realize that all that content is really being produced in-house at all these campuses by their by the production teams within the universities and colleges.
And we call them our campus broadcast producers. We meet with them monthly. We talk about storylines because it's not just the game. What should we be doing during halftime? Who are the student athletes we should be celebrating? Who are the award winners? What's special about the Horizon League? How do we use this to better tell our story? And our schools have really rallied around that. I'm trying to interview presidents at halftime to keep them engaged in the productions. To me, that I'm excited about it because it's just a platform that we can keep growing and building, and really driving viewership.
Is there student participation on these production teams?
Yes, there is, and I mean, in fact, when I go to basketball games, I'm often interviewed by a student who's in their broadcast journalism or wants to work in sports in some way, and they're interviewing me at halftime under the basket, asking me about Horizon League initiatives. And to me, I mean, what better learning lab than, again, right there, right back to sports.
Fantastic. I want to shift gears a little bit to the NIL. For our viewers and listeners, stands for Name, Images, and Likeness, and essentially is a program within college athletics that allows student athletes to be compensated for their name, images, and likeness. Right. So this has probably been, if not the most disruptive, but also innovative things that's happened to college athletics in quite a while. And I know that you and the Horizon League were pretty instrumental in creating one of the first marketplaces for your student athletes to navigate the NIL. Could you talk a little bit about the conception of the marketplace and what it does for student athletes?
Sure. So, and I mean, NIL, it used to be NLI, National Letter of Intent. So everyone had to change, which is still an acronym used in college sports. But you're right, NIL or NIL now has just become part of the vernacular that we all use. So NIL, when it first happened, I think some people thought the sky's falling, players are going to get paid, student athletes. And then I think we've all seen this is a good thing when used the right way. Yeah. And that's, I think, what we've really tried to do in the Horizon League is figure out what is really legitimate NIL. How can these student athletes capitalize on their persona being Division I athletes, and how can we help them with that? Well, Open Doors came to us, as did about 5 other vendors who, just like any other business, it's created a bit of a cottage industry, but they had a unique proposition. They had great education, so student athletes can learn how do you build a brand. They might not be able to hire Borshoff, so how can they go about building a brand and understanding what does that mean? And then once they make money, how do they manage it? So we have a whole library of 1 to 2 minute videos that they can watch. It's hard to get them to do it in candor, but nonetheless, that resource is there. The part that we were really excited about was this platform that's a marketplace where all student athletes have to do is build their profile. And Open Doors went to every one of our campuses. I've attended a couple of the sessions where literally you get your phone out, you put it on camera settings, and then it takes you to the prompt, and you can start to build your profile. And then it can be as robust as you want. And some of our student athletes, really, it's not just their pictures, their sport, their city, their major, but what else about them? Like, they love Dunkin' Donuts lattes. Well, Dunkin' Donuts has hired some of our student athletes to push out their favorite latte of the week, or what that is, and they're getting paid for that, which to me, that's exciting. We've had over, in a year and a half now, $800,000 worth of transactions. And that money does not even come to the Horizon League. It's straight A to B. The brand is paying the student athlete, and Open Doors helps with the transaction.
Okay, yeah. So NIL, NIL, coupled with the transfer portal, right? It's, again, disruptive, innovative. So there are critics out there that suggest this is maybe harmful for schools trying to build long-term programs, right, with the ability for student athletes to transfer much quicker, more seamlessly than they've been able to in the past. What's your take on the transfer portal, and what are you doing leading the Horizon League to help ensure your schools can stay competitive for the long term?
Yeah, the transfer mobility is here. And so when I have a coach or an administrator start to talk about woe is me, it's like, hey, it's here. It's not changing. We are absolutely in an age of activism and advocacy when it comes to student athletes. And I mean, just as coaches, administrators have mobility, I'm very comfortable and supportive of student athletes having it. The one piece we got to watch is the academic impact, because we do know from the data, the more you transfer, the less likely you are to graduate, because all your credits don't transfer. Doesn't mean you can't, and doesn't mean you won't, but it is going to be a harder mountain. So one, we do have to be mindful of that as we're recruiting students from a 4-year school or a 2-year school to figure out, okay, let's earnestly make sure they're on the path to graduate here. We owe that to them. So I think one is being aware of that, and that's inside baseball, but we do have academic support people at every one of our campuses who's trying to mentor and guide. Okay. From a competitive standpoint, I think you got to embrace the portal, and our coaches have. I mean, the last 2 years, I'd say it's been a net gain in terms of, in men's and women's basketball, student athletes leaving versus student athletes coming in. Okay. And that's part of just, one, a tribute to our coaches of recognizing talent, and then two, how do you coalesce a team? You don't necessarily have 4 years to build and develop, so you've got to be able to build a culture quickly. And that's what we've tried to figure out, is how do we help them with that and build that culture quickly. From a Horizon League standpoint, I've been trying to figure out how do we also help them retain, because you're constantly recruiting every student athlete on your roster, right? Not just the people coming in. So what can we do from a championship standpoint, even from the gifts we provide, but other experiences that we give? Can we make it an every other year, every third year, to just add yet another carrot, hopefully, to incentivize our student athletes to stay in the league?
Okay. Switching gears again, I want to talk about the recent brand recharge that the Horizon Leagues went through, and really the brand recharge is focusing on 4 pillars: major cities, major experiences, major moves, major impacts. So first, what led to the need to want to recharge the brand?
My sense was we had a lot of pride in our league, but we didn't have a good way to talk about it. And this even came through really just dinner conversations with some of our presidents and chancellors. They really noted that, one, we are in these major cities which provide great experiences. And I travel a lot. I was sitting on the Green Bay bench before a men's basketball game with the Youngstown coach, because they were obviously there to play. And I said, hey, how's your trip been? And he said, it's been great. I love this league. We were in Milwaukee 2 nights ago. We went to a Bucks game. Then we played at Milwaukee. We came up here. The team got to tour Lambeau. And then obviously we've got a game here. He said, cool. We have such a great experience that we can provide our student athletes in the cities where they live and play, but also in the cities that we travel to, just within our league. And I thought, boy, there's something there. How do we really tell that story? So with that, and then conversations with others, it didn't come from a place of we need a new logo. It was, we need to figure out a way to capture this pride and then message it. Frankly, I'm going to steal your term here, but we needed a better bullhorn, but we wanted it to be authentic. So that was really the genesis.
And I love that you guys went with the term recharge, right? In our industry, it's often a rebrand or a brand refresh. What led you to go recharge? I like it.
Well, thank you. I just felt like the rebrand was passive, and I wanted something that was a little more assertive, not maybe borderline aggressive, but just more assertive, because we did need, it's almost like a shot in the arm. Maybe I'm coming out of the pandemic still, I don't know, but I thought we needed something to just charge us forward. So that was the notion of it. I just made up the word. But I thought that it made sense because we were in a good space, and that was really what I talked with the firms that we were working with. This isn't like something's broken, but we really want that shot in the arm.
I really like it. If you haven't copyrighted it,
you can have
use it at Borshoff. Yeah,
yes,
that's really smart.
Yeah.
Maybe describe the process of going through the recharge, the team that you have that helped lead it, how you came up specifically with those 4 initiatives, cities, experience, moves, and impact, and maybe describe those a little bit.
Sure, and even the word major, we debated a little bit because we are a Division I mid-major conference. And we talked about that. On the one hand, we are competing nationally. We just saw that with Oakland men beating the Kentucky men in the first round of the tournament. Like, we are here to compete at the Division I level. On the other hand, we also view ourselves as major because we're providing these major experiences. So how could we say that in a way that's authentic and captures what we're doing, as well as puts the stake in the ground for here's who we are and here's where we're going. So that's how it happened. We spent a lot of time, as you know, it's an iterative process, and it took a lot of meeting time, whiteboarding that we both love, to really figure out it's not just words, but what's the messaging. And we worked with a couple different firms, and we talked with coaches, athletics directors, student athletes, presidents. So we had the focus groups because they're our stakeholders. And who do you think we are as a league? What are you proud of? And where do we need to be better? Where do we need to be stronger? So we asked some of the uncomfortable questions. I didn't like everything I heard because it revealed to me we've got some work to do. But it also motivated us to say, all right, how do we roll this up and then put it in this package that's authentic?
I think you guys did it the right way, going out and talking directly to your stakeholders and having them provide candid, honest feedback. And sometimes, like you said, it's uncomfortable, but you need to hear it. That's where you discover the opportunities, and that's where you solve your problems that way.
I will say that when we started the process, I was steadfast in we don't need a new logo. Logo's good. And then through the process, and we did the brand audit, and we had too many branches of that logo, and I learned a lot through that process, but also that you can have a secondary logo, the motion graphics, and the new H icon that we frankly really needed for our social media identity has caught on with our student athletes in ways I wasn't expecting, and folks asking for merchandise, which has been such a good thing, but also a realization of you got to be open-minded at every phase of the process, because what is our secondary logo now may very well evolve into being our primary because that H icon has taken on.
Yeah, well, I was just going to ask, how is those new brand pillars and the brand recharge being activated across all the campuses?
So it began with, and of course, you've got the whole brand strategy that you roll out in brand standards, but one was with all of the digital, which is the easiest part that we use, that our schools use in all of our player awards, which we give out weekly player awards. You see now the new H icon with that, and it's an H icon with the horizon, and this is sounds a little hokey, but we mean it. When we talked about the horizon and why we still name that, does that still resonate? We noted because all of our student athletes are chasing their horizon, and we want that to be not just sport, but the academic side to prepare them for life. So that, and we're all under the same horizon, which is the unity part of being part of the same league. So that was why we have that, still the horizon piece very present in the H icon. It resonates. Yeah. So with that space, and we even talked about it with our student athletes and said, this is why we're the Horizon League, and this is where you see literally the horizon in our, and hopefully all of our visual identity. So our schools have really started to use that. We put it up in the banners. The one big piece we'll have to figure out is, does it go on the basketball court in the lane? That's the big cost factor that we're working towards. But in terms of activation around campuses, all of our championship hats, T-shirts that we hand out when you win, all of our trophies and awards, you see the new branding and the H icon.
Very cool. What other feedback have you received on it from around the league, and were there any learning moments or things you would have done differently in the process?
I think what we've continued to learn is this is a marathon. I mean, we came out maybe a little fast in the first couple miles, but to really get traction, especially with these pillars, we've even now talked about a Life in the League series where we're profiling student athletes and talking about the major impact they're having in their communities, the major experiences they're having as a Division I student athlete playing in the major city of Cleveland, for instance, at Cleveland State. So how do we take these pillars that we know are true and then bring them to life through stories? And that's really, I think, it's not a spoiler alert here, but that's really our phase 2 as we think about the 24-25 year. We've spent a lot of time on both Life in the League, and then the third part of that is Beyond the Horizon, where we have incredible success stories of our student athletes just doing great things in the world. So we've got to really tell those stories too.
That's really great. That's incredible content that you have, and very inspirational and
exactly.
motivational. And
that's the plan.
Yeah, terrific. What have been a few of your favorite memories so far as leading the Horizon League?
Well, I mean, gosh, so I've almost been in the Horizon League 10 years this August, which it's been fantastic. And then I've been commissioner. I was named commissioner right in the middle of the pandemic, which was a tough time to transition, but also what a privilege to be able to be named the leader in the midst of that. And one of my favorite memories actually relates to coming out of the pandemic, because it was that spring of 21, we had to cancel all of our championships that fall, which really weighed heavy, because you think especially those seniors who are looking forward to being able to play in their fall championship, soccer, volleyball, cross country, and saying, sorry, we're not going to be able to have your season. We made the decision to move it all. So we had 19 championships in the spring of 21 in about a 3.5 month time period. And it was obviously a heavy lift by our small staff, but all of our schools rallied around that, and we pulled it off. And we were able to offer 19 championships. Not all conferences did that, and I understand why, but we did it, and I know our student athletes appreciated it. That's probably one of my just prouder teamwork accomplishments.
It's such a great thing to do for all the student athletes, and man, I can't even imagine the logistics that went into pulling that off and all that. Yeah,
I don't recommend doing it again, but it was worth it.
A lot about your team and how important it was to do this for the student athletes and all your campuses and all your schools. That's really nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
Last question for you. What impact do you hope the Horizon League has on the world?
That's a big one.
It's a big one.
I mean, we say in our statement, our brand statement, that we are preparing 3,000 student athletes who are having these incredible experiences in major metropolitan cities for not just their experiences in college, but we're preparing them for life. And that, to me, is if we really do that and give them the leadership opportunities and experiences, so that whenever they're going to lose, obviously, in college it's going to be painful, but they're going to also have losses in life, and to be able to build that resilience factor. And then to, frankly, I think, have like the belief of, hey, this is a huge problem and I can take it on, or I can get together with these people and take on this incredible feat and move this mountain. Like that, to me, to build in that inspiration, that's why we go to work every day. We talk about that as a team. Like, you got to believe in what we're doing here, and we're supporting our school's missions to do this. So that, I know it's hard to measure that, so I will acknowledge that part of it. But I think that comes through those Beyond the Horizon stories, where you have student athletes who come back and say, because I did this in college, I'm doing this now.
It's a really nice impact. Yeah, I think you're having it with all your schools
trying.
And your student athletes. Yeah. Just before we close, if people want to find out more about the Horizon League and the brand Recharge, where can they go?
Everything you need to know is on horizonleague.org.
Perfect.
And I'll note, we've got, here in Indianapolis and the state of Indiana, we do host a lot of championships, but we just celebrated our 5th Horizon League basketball championship, men's and women's, at the Farmers Coliseum. We'll be back in March, and there's all sorts of community activations that occur in and around that. We would love to have the city come support.
Love it. Yeah, we'll be there.
Awesome.
Well, Julie, thank you so much.
Thank
it
you.
was a true pleasure to speak to you. Learned a ton. Our viewers and our listeners, I'm sure will learn a lot as well. So again, really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of course. Thanks. I really enjoyed that conversation with Julie, and I hope you all did too. And thanks to all of you for watching or listening. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow the Mindful Bullhorn on your favorite podcast platform. See you next time.